Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. I am Levi.
And I'm Howie. And welcome to Northwest Magic.
Today we are talking about Rowan, Scion of War. We built a deck surrounding around her, him, it, Rowan.
That's it. She's a lady.
Yeah, sorry, I'm looking at my Nokia right now, and it's hard to tell, like, what it...
Always with the Nokia.
Rowan is a 1 black and a red, a legendary creature, human wizard with menace, taps, and spells you cast this turn that are black and or red cost X less to cast, where X is the amount of life you lost this turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Cool Rakdos Commander.
Oh yeah, we're gonna be hurting ourselves a lot and then hurting other people a lot.
It's such a cool archetype, and I like to see that.
Cool.
It's a very cool archetype. You don't see it too much. You have to outpace yourself.
It's kind of like a reverse Rakdos, Lord of Riots or whatever.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Where your opponent's getting hurt makes your stuff cheaper, but this time you hurt yourself.
Absolutely.
Should call this Rowan, Stop Hitting Yourself of War.
Yeah.
Alright, so we have a pretty good handful of cards in here that let you just pay as much life as you want. Like, whenever you want. So, those cards we have are cards like Blood Celebrant, which is a black mana. It's a creature, it's a 1/1, it has a black mana and pay 1 life to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So you can just pay a black to add a life, to add a black to pay a life. You just put 1 black into it and you just go forever. We got Doom Whisperer, which has its 5 mana, flying trample, 6/6, with pay 2 life to surveil 2.
Doom Whisperer's so good in this.
So good. Do as many times as you want.
Yeah.
You're at 40 life, just pay 38 life, and everything costs 38 cheaper, which is really important for our big X spells we'll be talking about later. We have cards like Immolating Soul Eater, which is a 2 mana artifact creature that has a Phyrexian red mana to give it +1/+0 until end of turn. Same thing. It's basically pay 2 life as many times as you want. The big one in here, if you go to EDH Rec, I think this is the first card you see besides Rowan, is Treasonous Ogre, where it has Dethrone, irrelevant. Don't even read it. But then it has pay 3 life to add red to your mana pool. So, one of the big combos in here is getting Treasonous Ogre out, paying like 39 life. Put yourself in a very risky zone. But you get like 13 red mana to your mana pool. All your stuff costs 39 cheaper, and then you play Crackle with Power, which is XXX red to deal 5 times X damage to each of up to X targets, and I think you end up doing, like, with all that mana put into that, it's like 95 damage to 15 targets. Like, you just win.
You can do that on, like, turn 4 pretty easily.
You can do that on turn 4, yeah. You just need the right hand. Like, just those 4 cards. And some of those cards are replaceable. Like, you don't even need Treasonous Ogre every time, and you don't need Crackle with Power every time. We got some redundancy, so you can kind of hurt yourself enough to hurt everybody else. Another one, pay as much life as you want, is Wall of Blood. It's a 3 mana creature that says pay 1 life. Wall of Blood gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Pay as much as you want. What else do we got in here, man? Oh, we got Wheel of Misfortune. This is a good draw spell too. Each player secretly chooses a number 0 or greater, then all players reveal those numbers simultaneously and determine the highest and lowest numbers revealed this way. Wheel of Misfortune deals damage equal to the highest number to each player who chose that number, and each player who didn't choose the lowest number discards their hand and draws 7 cards. You can just choose like 30. Other people won't choose 30 and take that much damage, you know what I mean? Or if they do, that's fine, because then
they just took 30 damage.
Yeah. Off a 3 mana spell, and you probably drew stuff, because you probably weren't the lowest number on there. A really cool interaction in here I found is Toxic Deluge. So if the board's getting gummed up and you really need to kill everything, what you can do is have Rowan out, and let's say you cast Toxic Deluge. As an additional cost to cast this spell, pay X life. Just put like 15 into it. And then all of a sudden you can... so you tap Rowan in response to yourself casting Toxic Deluge, and you can rebuild your board for super cheap after you wipe the board. And cast Rowan again, get around the commander tax, and just build your board again immediately after wiping for cheap. It's a cool interaction.
That is very cool. Yeah, because you can just keep that mana and then just recast her with your tons of mana that you just basically got.
Yeah, like no matter what, she's going to cost 2 mana after that, and then same with a lot of the other things you have, even if it's just things like draw spells. I found when I was making this deck that there are a lot of things that incidentally hurt you. We added some draw spells in here that just hurt you a little bit, but sometimes hurting you a little bit can really add up. And even if you can make things 4 or 5 mana cheaper with Rowan, it's a lot of value. So we got cards like Read the Bones, Sign in Blood, and Knight's Whisper, which are all 2 or 3 mana. They all basically say draw 2 cards and lose 2 life in some way or another. We have Reanimate, so even though you might not have a cool creature in the graveyard, maybe your opponents do, it's a black mana to put a target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, and you lose life equal to its converted mana cost. So even if you get some reasonable like 4 or 5 mana thing off this, you spent 1 mana to make the rest of your spells 5 mana cheaper for the rest of the turn. The 2 mythic flip lands from Zendikar Rising in these colors, Agadeem's Awakening and Shatter Skull Smashing, where if you don't want to play the front side of the spell, you can play them as a land, untapped for 3 life on the backside. So that let us go down a little bit. I think we're playing 33 normal lands, and we have 3 modal dual face lands. So we'll always have lands no matter what. We added some tutors to make the deck more consistent, so you can get your Crackle with Power or your Treasonous Ogre whenever you don't have it. That still also make your life total go down. Grim Tutor, Imperial Seal, and Vampiric Tutor all get whatever card you want, no restrictions, and they take a couple life away from you. A cool one I found is Dismember. It's 1 and 2 Phyrexian black mana to give a target creature -5/-5 until end of turn. So basically for 1 mana and 4 life, you kill a creature, most likely.
And then your next spell is 4 mana cheaper. Or just for the rest of the turn. So that's 4 cheaper.
Yeah. Some things that are important, will be important in certain situations, is giving Rowan haste to make sure that she can activate her ability as soon as she comes down. So I added Lightning Greaves, Swiftfoot Boots, and 1,000-Year Elixir to help with that. They all give haste, or in 1,000-Year Elixir's case, it's you can play activated abilities as though they had haste, which her ability is an activated ability, so it works really well to make sure we can play her and then do that. We got some really fun enchantments in here. My least favorite enchantment in the whole game is in here just because it makes you lose a life. Phyrexian Arena. Everyone knows what this card does. Beginning of your upkeep, you lose a life and you draw a card. Yeah, I usually don't like it, but the life loss was important here.
Not actually too bad in this deck.
No, because even if we draw like the worst hand possible, we'll still be able to lose life. Because I want to say like at least 80 cards in this deck let you lose life, I think. It's a lot. It's
a ridiculous amount.
It's a ridiculous amount. Like, even the lands. We'll get to the lands a little later, but it's crazy. So then the other 3 enchantments, there's not a lot of enchantments, but the other 3 are Black Market Connections, which is nice because you can lose 6 life during your upkeep and get some value off that for, at the beginning of that turn, it's no mana investment. It's investment the turn before. We got Descent into Avernus. At the beginning of your upkeep, put 2 descent counters onto Descent into Avernus, and then each player creates X treasure tokens, and Descent into Avernus deals X damage to each player, where X is the number of counters on it. So after 2 turns, this is dealing 4 damage to you, getting you 4 treasures. You're also hurting your opponents incrementally along the way. You're giving them treasures, but it's not going to matter because you're going to win, no matter what.
You're You're trying to win pretty
Necropotence.
fast.
Or Necropotence. I don't know how you pronounce this card. Yeah, we're calling this deck Rowan Turbo. It's fast. Necropotence is cool. Skip your draw step. Whenever you discard a card, exile that card from your graveyard. But then it has pay 1 life to exile the top card of your library face down and put that card into your hand at the beginning of your next end step. So you just draw,
Ooh,
I don't know, just draw 20 or 30 or 40, whatever you want. It don't matter. As many as you want. The last cool draw spell I wanted to talk about is Peer into the Abyss. It's 7 mana, but hopefully you make this cheaper. Then you say target player draws cards equal to half the number of cards in their library and loses half their life, round up each time. So you're probably going to lose 15 to 20 life off this thing. Draw whatever cards you need, most likely.
Hopefully you draw into one of your X spells, like Jaya's Emulating Inferno, or Crackle with Power, or Shatter Skull Smashing, you know. You draw into one of the Exsanguinate, Torment of Hellfire. Hopefully you draw into one of those, and you will have lost enough life to pay for a very large, like, Torment of Hellfire or something. And win. Yeah. Just win.
Sometimes it doesn't even need to be that large because you've hurt people along the way incrementally.
Yeah.
I added cards like Grey Merchant of Asphodel. You know, you probably get, hurt everyone for 3 and maybe gain like 15 or 12. I don't know math. 8, 9, whatever.
9, 15.
One of the nastiest cards in here, and people see this coming a mile away, unless you have 1,000-Year Elixir out, is Heartless Hidetsugu, where it has tap and he deals damage to each player equal to half that player's life rounded down. So in a lot of situations, that'll be enough to finish the game. My favorite ramp card in here is Mirror Convert. It's a 2-mana mirror, Toxic 1, irrelevant. But it has tap and pay 2 life to add a mana of any color. Just so many incremental little life hurties, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stub your toes all over the place, but that's how you win.
I mean, on turn 3, you could have 3 mana on the field, and then also be like making things too cheaper from Mirror Convert. So turn 3, casting a 6 mana spell. It's insane. It's insane.
Yeah, and it taps for a mana.
Yeah, it taps for a mana, so
yeah.
You could probably even potentially get like a 7 mana spell if you're lucky. Maybe you get a Soul Ring or something.
Yeah.
Nasty.
I added some life gain, like I was saying. I don't know if I was saying that. I added some life gain because we're hurting ourselves.
Like I was
Grey
saying.
Merchant of Asphodel. Shieldred the Apocalypse. It's been a year, but a new black staple. Whenever you draw a card, which we have a fair amount of draw spells, you gain some life. Profane Transfusion is really cool because we are hurting ourselves a lot, so we can hurt ourselves a lot, make this card cheap, exchange life totals with someone else, and hurt ourselves more from there. Get someone within kill range from there. Erebos' Intervention is also can be a huge X spell and gain you a lot of life. It's an instant with choose one. Target creature gets -X until end of turn, and you gain X life. And then you never... Well, I guess you can do exile up to twice X target cards from graveyards. Graveyard hate is important, so I can't say never. Lastly, I want to just talk about... I went pretty hard on the mana base on this one. You don't have to if you want to knock off like a lot of money off of this deck. You can go way less hard than I did, but I basically added every land that hurts us. I added, I believe, the 8 fetch lands, Arid Mesa, Bloodstained Mire, all of those things, so that you can tap to sacrifice it, get a basic land or one of the dual lands, but you pay a life. And then one of the big moves, obviously, is probably going to be like Arid Mesa into your shock land, Blood Crypt, pay 2 life for that. We had Ancient Tomb, taps add 2 mana, hurts yourself for 2. I added City of Brass and Mana Confluence. When they become tapped, you take a damage. I added Hall of the Bandit Lord. This is a Deep Cut. It has tap and pay 3 life to add 1 mana to your mana pool, and if that mana is spent on a creature spell, that creature has haste. So you can lose the 3 life with this and immediately tap Rowan to make your next stuff 3 cheaper. Works perfect. A couple of the lands from Lord of the Rings made it in here. Mount Doom and the Black Gate both let you lose life. Mount Doom's basically more or less another pain land, and then the Black Gate costs 3 life for it to enter untapped. An old card, Tarnished Citadel, has tap to add a colorless mana and tap to add any color to your mana pool, one of any color, and it deals 3 damage to you. Really, there's just, I want to say, we got 33 normal lands in here. Maybe 10 of them don't hurt you. So, with all these little fetch lands, shock lands, little things, like, you're gonna be hurting yourself. Like, no matter what, probably everything's gonna cost by turn 3 or 4. Everything's gonna cost, worst case scenario, like 6 less. So you really just, you're only paying for colored pips. There are no colorless generic mana in this deck at that point. There's no way. There's no way.
Yeah, this is a super, super awesome deck. I can see this really knocking over your opponents, especially when you come into this, like, first time, maybe somebody hasn't really seen Rowan before, and you just winning on turn 4 or 5 real quick.
Even as early as turn 3.
Honestly, you could win on turn 3. Some of the weaknesses, for sure, like, you can definitely, if somebody knows what's going on, they can know to try to target you, because your life is a very valuable resource for this deck. So some counterplay,
especially when you start at 40.
Yeah, the counterplay would probably be to just target you and try to kill you before, so you aren't able to use your precious life.
It's got to be player removal or make sure Rowan does not stick.
Yeah, very important to try to keep those things alive. You got to be smart, you know what I mean? This deck actually really requires you to be a little bit tactful or a little bit lucky if you have a really good opening hand.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very awesome deck.
Super fun. I kind of want to build it. It's kind of expensive. Yeah, but hey, it's a price for power, baby.
Yeah, it's mostly the lands. It really is mostly the lands.
I put a lot of really expensive staples in here, honestly. We got our Deadly Rollicks, our Vampiric Tutors. Like, it does add up, but if you build it, you'll have a lot of fun. And honestly, you could build the deck budget. These are just like the best options. So that's our Rowan deck. It's super fun. You should build it and let me know how it goes.
Yeah, especially if you really like burn. This is an awesome way to utilize burn.
In the comments, go ahead and say why did I add Mana Crypt? That card is $230. Well, because it hurts you for 3 damage. That's why. And sometimes that's the price for power. Alright guys, thanks for watching our video. See ya.
Bye.